Okay, Ollie O'Neill here, and this week we're going to be talking about the minimum wage. Now, minimum wage is currently um, currently in my country minimum wage. I'm not sure what it is around the world, but for Ireland it's 8.50 an hour, right? So you get 850, or not 850, 850 cent if you want to be exact, but €8 50 an hour, right? And uh, during if you were to work a full 40 hour week, which is the average week, 9 to 5, 5 days a week, you'd be earning 300 and you'd be earning 340 euros a week, so 340 euros a week, um, and 0 cents. So that's how much you'd earn a week, 340 a week. Now, the average household, to maintain an average household, is during the boom time is quite high. It was around maybe 1,500 a week, between 1,000, I'd say, and 1,500 a week to maintain the average household income. Nowadays, it's probably between 600 to it's between 500 and 1,000, I'd say, nowadays, to maintain a family nowadays. So 500 to 1,000. Now, what all that means is basically that 340 a week. If you try to get any job anywhere, if you want to work for a living, you're not going to be able to support a household. You're not going to be able to support anyone else. Now, 340, you could live off yourself, just by yourself, and not very comfortably. You'd probably have to go on some sort of medical benefit or something like that, because doctors charge like 50 quid for each consultation, or 60 quid, I think it is now. So to have a healthy lifestyle, it costs a lot more than 340 quid a week. Now, what I'm saying is, instead of what you have the minimum wage based on is some arbitrary number that politicians pick off their head, is you base it on what I call the minimum lifestyle standard. So in the minimum lifestyle is to work is you have to have everyone has to have a house, right? Now, you have to have all the human rights just to live. So to work and to live, you need the basic human rights. I'm going to put a little circle on top. I don't know why. But yeah, you need a house. So everyone in the world needs a house. They need running water. Currently, they're bringing in water charges in Ireland, which I don't know what our taxes are paying for anymore. We seem to be being charged and taxed at the same time. But yeah, so you need running water. You need sanitation, so you need toilets and whatnot. They're bringing in what's it called, charges on septic tanks in Ireland as well, so you need sanitation. That's another human right. So I'll just quickly put in the house. Sorry, but I kind of want to finish off the job. So you need sanitation, so that's another human right. You need food, so I'll just draw a loaf of bread. Not the best loaf of bread, but you get the picture. It's a loaf of bread. Yeah, loaf of bread. So you need that's a very bad. That's meant to be a slice off it. But anyway, you need food. So food costs a certain amount per week. You need heating. So you need a fire. Actually, I can mess around with the colors here. Mess around a bit. Where's the one I like using? Is that it? Okay, that's not the right color at all. Yeah, so you need food, shelter. Warmth is a definite big one. So unless you're in sort of a hot climate, you probably need cold. Yeah, so you need basically to be in the right conditions. Another human right is healthcare. Now, oops, I'll just get the right thing here. Another human right is healthcare. So going to your doctor, just draw a stethoscope. and maybe a syringe or something should really use a ruler. But anyway, so another human right is to use is another human right is medicine. Let me see, what other human rights do you need to survive? You need it now. This can be argued, but it is a definite truth. Happiness is as much important to your health as a doctor or anything like that. So happiness needs you need you need basic entertainment. So just like the BBC in the UK, we get the BBC here in Ireland, and it's actually the best channel on TV. So even though all the privatized channels will probably argue that it's not, it's actually, of all the TV channels, BBC is actually the most entertaining of all the channels that we have on our TV, and that's a government-run channel, not a private-run channel. So this theory that private-run things don't run as well as public things is complete crap. Or no, sorry, public things don't run as well as private things is complete crap. In fact, every service in Ireland and England that have been privatized have gotten worse since they've been privatized. But anyway, I'll go on anyway. So you need healthcare, entertainment, food, shelter, warmth, clothing. Um, there's an important one now, if I can kind of remember. My lines are terrible. Just getting used to this Wacom still. I'm not used to sort of the difference between the screen and what's going on the pointer. So we have food, shelter, clothes, education. That's the other big one. I'll just draw one of those hats that those college students wear. Yeah, so education. Education, whiteboard and chalk. Well, technically whiteboard and a blackboard or whatever. The yeah, education. Now, education is very important, and I think it's coming to a point where it's sort of turning super private at the moment, and it's very it's degrading society. Now, there's two things that are important in education, which I feel that should be mandatory. Is that home economics in our country? I don't know whether it's called home sciences in another country or whatnot, but it's basically how to look after a home and how to look after a family. That should be a mandatory subject. I completely think it should be a mandatory subject. The other thing is, I think there should be a class on morality. I think some people don't know how to empathize with other people, or they don't know how to care for other people. And I think class on morality and how to look after yourself, sort of like, so you're not basically also how to look after yourself as well. Those two things are life skills I think should be taught, as well as like parenting and whatnot. So a proper education, and maybe I think colleges should be mandatory for all students. I think you should stop being a student once you leave college, not once you leave the school before college. So they're your basic human rights: shelter, running water, sanitation, food, warmth or cold in the case if you're in a very hot climate, medical care, entertainment, and education. They're your basic human rights. Now, to supply these, the minimum wage should supply these standards. Now, the first human right is housing. Now, currently, there's no minimum standard for housing. Housing can be any size, anywhere. That's one of my first main issues, is that housing should be geared around raising a family. And currently, housing is, we kind of, in Ireland, we have a system where the houses are sort of like, we have what's known as, whoops, oops, a daisy. I'll just undo that. There we go. Yeah, currently we have a system where we have housing estates, and it's all privatized. The houses are all built by private individuals who want to make money off whatever they can get off the housing. So they have very little standards in housing. There's more and more coming in, but the standards are bare minimum. I mean, the first thing that should be looked at is every house should be what's known as a passive house. Now, passive houses have big layers of insulation in between the walls, so the need to heat it is immensely low. So all new houses, I think, should have that standard. The other thing is the front and back gardens. I think every house that a family lives in, all children should have a big enough back garden that they can play and not have to go outside onto the street to play. The other thing about housing is each room should have a minimum size as well, and each house I feel should have maybe some sort of art room or sort of workshop room, so just so like you could study in peace or whatever. It's just minimum standards that people should all have, I feel. Um, the other thing is water. Now that's a given. Water's a pretty easy one. We all need water to live. We all need air to breathe. Water should be a minimum standard. Now, one thing I'll say about water, in Ireland we have fluoridated water, and now I'm not too sure about fluoridated water. It's not been fully proven that it's bad for you, but the statistics in the area now, I know you can prove a lot with statistics, but in areas where fluoridated water have been brought in, the rates of bone cancer have gone through the roof. So fluoridated water, I think, shouldn't be in. We currently have fluoridated water here in Ireland, so it's not the best. Sanitation is a given. Um, it's well, it's the crap you leave out. But anyway, I'm not going to go too much into toiletries. Food now. I think as a part of education, you should be taught how to provide yourself with the basic food requirements every day. So you know what to buy and what to eat. So the government should have it so you can buy so by the minimum wage you can buy basic food, or the food you need to live, and everyone should be taught decent nutrition so you can have a decent lifestyle standard. I think most illnesses and bugs in countries and all that are caused by poor nutrition. I'd say you'd wipe out 90% of health problems if you wiped out poor nutrition. um, Fire and heat, that's a given. Just with the passive housing, it would probably be a lot easier to supply. You probably wouldn't even need a fireplace with a passive house, but it'd still have it would be good. And as for cooling, I think the whole thing with what's it called, with it's quite wasteful to cool a whole house. But with a passive house, it's kind of it's kept at a certain temperature, and in the summer it doesn't heat up as much. Maybe at night you could invent some sort of cooling thing that stores up the cold air at night to sort of cool the house. That's only just one suggestion. I wouldn't know the details of that. I'm not huge into thermodynamics. I know quite a bit about it, but I wouldn't study it immensely. The other thing is health. Now, health is going towards the private scale, and it's becoming ridiculous. Um, Health is kind of like a health is a definite human right, and to allow companies to charge for it, the government should take over and create what I call an internally competitive health system, where it have two health services. The government would run two health services, and they would compete internally. And the better performing health system would, at the end of the year, maybe all their employees would get bonuses in their salary or something like that. So there'd be an incentive to work. Um, Entertainment. Now, I always think the government should have a national TV channel, and our government does, and England does. I'm not sure about the states or any of that, but I think it's important that they help local people maybe get up and started in entertainment if they want to get up and started. I personally found it very hard to get into the entertainment industry in Ireland. It's all very nepotistic, and you find most jobs in Ireland are just nepotism. It's very hard to get a job without knowing someone. So I think the government should be geared towards maybe providing help with startup companies and things like that, especially in small entertainment. But to be honest, I have a vested interest in that, so that's why I'm suggesting it helps in startup companies. In truth, maybe you shouldn't help startup companies, because the hardest years of a company are its immediate startup, and they really determine whether it'll fail or gain those first 1 or 2 years of a company's life. So it's best that you struggle to begin with, I think. So maybe it's best that the government doesn't lend a hand. Um, Now, education. Now, education is kind of a stupid subject. There's certain human rights in education, and I think they're not being given. Like one human right is to have I think home economics or home sciences or whatever it's called in whatever country you're in is ultra important. I think it should be taught by everyone. Morality should be taught by everyone. Or every should be taught by every moral. That's my dog in the background. Morality should be taught in every school. I think. I also because I think what the church had was it basically had a stranglehold on morality, whereas I think nowadays with less and less people attending church and it becoming less a part of people's life, we still need still basic moral teachings and how to care for other people and how to empathize and put ourselves in other people's shoes. And it's not being taught in school. I also think confidence should be taught in school. I think that's the one thing. Being part of a class, I was very afraid to speak up in class, and I think it should be taught in class how to speak in front of other people and maybe not get embarrassed and things like that. So public speaking, I think, should be another class. Morality, home economics, and public speaking. And I also feel college should be mandatory. Every student should get, or every school child should get a college training. And I think the other thing is the testing system. Now, this is where I disagree with teachers completely. I believe there's no such thing as a dumb student. I believe there's such a thing as a really crap system that basically churns out dumb students. I believe every student can technically learn what every other student can learn. Now, what I mean by that is that to learn something, you basically note it down in your head. That's what learning is. And then you can also understand how it works. They're the basic two facets of learning. Now, I feel every student has the ability to learn the basics or to learn all the subjects that they're taught in school, English, maths, history, whatever, and understand it and memorize it. There's these books by this guy called Tony Bazan. It's like, and he has all these techniques for learning. Now, I found his books kind of hard to follow because he had so many techniques, but I think each student should be taught techniques and sort of taught to come up with their own techniques for learning. And they should also be taught how to study. That's one of the things that always bugged me, was that I'd read and read and sometimes I just wouldn't retain the knowledge. So you should be taught basics of studying. The other thing is students should learn to be happy in their subjects. You see, some teachers make their subject very dry and boring, whereas we're kind of a happiness happiness people. We always gear towards the happy things in our life, and I think if study was made to be sort of interesting and made us happy when we're doing it, it'd be a lot easier. So they're my suggestions for the basic human rights. I feel the minimum wage should supply a minimum lifestyle standard, which should supply all these things that I drew with my ugly painting, but it should basically supply all those things. I'm going to practice a bit with this program, maybe make it look a bit more prettier. So yeah, they're the basics. I think that's my invention anyway, the basic or the minimum lifestyle standard. And also my other invention, I'll just draw a circle. I'll draw a better circle. Damn, I wish I did art. I did art in secondary school, but I did art when I was studying, but come on. So the other thing is my other invention now, and it's a very quick and simple one. It's the global minimum wage, as in no matter where you are in the world, the price of those things should be provided for by work. So the global minimum wage, and it also mean companies couldn't go abroad and use sort of slave labor or cheaper people around the world. The whole world would be even. So a global minimum wage. So my two inventions are the global minimum wage and so global minimum wage and minimum lifestyle standard. So oops, global minimum wage, global minimum wage and the global minimum wage and minimum lifestyle standard.